Our next speaker, good friend of mine, known him for a long time. Annoyingly, he still looks like he's 25 years old, but he actually has 25 years of experience in this space. He's done a lot of great things at the federal level, a lot of great things, including our first innovation officer at Cal HHS for the state. Now he's with Department of Technology as our Deputy State Chief Technology Officer, and he's going to come up and talk to you about program service design and human design methods. Please help me in welcoming Chaeny Emanavin.
Thanks for a great introduction. Now it makes me wonder if I need to hide my Dorian Gray painting, so I don't see it. No, I'm kidding. Good genes. My mom is celebrating 51 years of state service this month. All at Franchise Tax Board, a little bit with transportation. So she's actually retiring for good this December. So I don't think she's going to try to go for 52 years, but yeah. Hi, my name is Chaeny Emanavin. It's great to be back. I was in federal space and then state space and then the nonprofit space and now back to the state space. So it's really great to be back here. I'm really excited for the challenges ahead. And so Emerging Tech Forum, so you guys may have heard of this thing called generative AI. But I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not going to steal my boss, Jonathan Perrett's thunder, because he's going to talk about Gen AI. So I'm going to talk about slightly different pieces of it. Innovation in general and what that means. So I'm a product guy in a very operational role, which seems like a very square peg in a round hole, right? But what's cool about that, and what's cool about that challenge, is it's bringing a different mindset to things that you may not otherwise think about, like data, but it ends up being really powerfully enabling. So when you think about things like standards, generally when you're working in a data center, you think of SLAs, right? Standard agreement. All very important, all very good. But when I talk about standards, I'm thinking about also how do we work internally to deliver those things. It's not just what you do, but it's how you work that often determines whether something is delivered well or something is delivered in a haphazard or less effective manner, right? So one of the things I've learned in product is that you don't always have great designers. I look with jealousy over at ODI because they actually have people who are designers. And even inside of CDT, one side of the house has all the designers and my side, OTech, has all of the more dyed-in-the-wool technical people. So I'm always going like, hey, send a designer this way. But in reality, we're all designers, every single person in this room. If you've ever written a document that gave someone instructions on how to do something, congratulations, you're a designer, right? If you made a checklist for yourself or for anyone else, you're a designer. So taking that mindset and how we're designing it allows you to see, wow, there's good examples of design all around us. And by being mindful about that and designing how our teams interact, we can create those type of experiences that we want, not only for our staff, but for the people who use our services. So I'll give you a couple of quick examples. I have so many good examples, I wanted to pick a couple. So not my team, but related to my team, the digital vaccine records. We all saw the myvaccine.ca.gov, my vaccine record. Anyway, the point of that is you built something which worked really well. And anecdotally, like that was a lifesaver when I was trying to get in and out of places and I forgot my little paper card. Now that I'm in this role, I think about, oh, it's built on React. It has a Microsoft.NET Core with Node.js API and Snowflake on the back end, right? Thinking about how those pieces are put together. That's important when you think about structure, but it still comes down to how was that designed. I'm building up to a point here. So I'll give you another example. Previously, I was working at the Bloomberg Center for Public Innovation, and one of my cities was Bogotá, Colombia. And they made something, please forgive my Spanish, I took French in high school, I should have taken Spanish, but they built something called the Manzana de Cuidado, which technically, word for word, is apples of care, which it's care blocks. And this is a program that the mayor of Bogotá helped stand up to give care workers, primarily women, 4 hours of free childcare, free elder care, free whatever care. And during that 4 hours, they're able to take free classes, training classes, they can get their high school diploma, they can take business development classes. One individual learned how to sew and started a side business making clothing, and now they were able to move into bigger house, put her kids through school. Like, this is an amazing program. But what was limiting was the fact that it was so popular, it was taking 30 minutes of an hour, 2-hour long class just to sign everyone in. So what did the team that I was working with do? They used old technology, QR codes, something you didn't think was that exciting. But they gave every student a student card with a QR code on it, and all the teacher had to do was scan it. But that card also drove something bigger. It drove a sense of belonging and camaraderie between the people who were using these services, and it created an entire subculture all of its own. And it was so popular, they ended up creating a care block in every single neighborhood in Bogotá within 2 years, just because there was so much popularity. So by making a very mindful design, giving people a card, it gave them a sense of identity. So the design became bigger than what it was originally intended to be. So that's kind of cool. Another quick example, one of the things I worked on before I even joined Health and Human Services was the Office of Tax Appeals. And I know it sounds exciting, we're making tax appeals easier, but bringing together administrative law judges, paralegals, and tax experts, and putting them all in the same room and having them think through how can this process work better, ended up shaving 15 days off the process before we even started thinking about the technology. So by sitting your team together and thinking about the design, you're like, wow, we can do some pretty amazing things. So what I've been thinking of from a design perspective is systematically, how do you design those good interactions? How do you force those to happen? When I was working with Secretary Wilkening at Health and Human Services, the Office of Innovation focused on 2 things, human-centered design and product management. So 5 years ago, product management was still a new thing, and now it's totally common, so thanks, which is great. But that mindset is infectious and it's important. It's, can you build a thing to solve a problem? And so now what I'm thinking of, now that I'm working with largely technical teams, what I'm thinking of is the next phase of this. So everyone's familiar with the journey map, right? Maybe, sort of, hopefully. The idea of a journey map is this is what the customer sees, or this is what the user, for lack of a better term, sees. This is their experience with it. And everyone should be familiar with the process map, right? This should be that type of audience. And ideally, a process map is what things does my team do to go from the start of a request to fulfilling it. So it's a ServiceNow request. It is a help ticket. It's a, hey, can you spin up this web server? Or is my platform's deputy over there is, hey, can you make something amazing happen in our mainframe? So that's the process map. What I've found is that there's missing connective tissue, right? We work really hard to make sure these process maps make sense, but then when we present it in front of a user, they're like, that's like 852 steps. Whoa. And then we're like, well, we need to have all this information. Those key touch points of the user journey, and then all the work that you have to do with your team, a really great analogy is the restaurant analogy. Front of house, back of house, right? When you're a customer and you go into a restaurant, you sit down, you order, you get your food, you enjoy it, you pay, right? Back of house, what might be happening is when the ticket comes in, the waiter brings it in, the sous chef might be talking to the chef might be screaming at someone in French that this has not been cooked to the right temperature. There's all these things happening to make sure that that plate is perfect when it's delivered. So how do you create that mapping between what the user sees and all the things that your team has to do at those different phases to make that experience seamless? And the tool that I found works best is something that's called service design blueprinting. So I'm not going to get all nerdy and show it to you here, but there's a couple really great books on it. I encourage everyone, especially our partners, to look at that because this is a really great way to look at that user journey line and then the process map line. And then the idea of the blueprint is it's what happens at each touch point that is an input or an output for what your team does so they can deliver that next thing. So the user might only see 2 or 3 touch points, but you might get all those 80 different things that need to be done. And when you use simple tools like this, these are things that designers it's so simple and so common to them. They don't even think about the power of these things. When you use these tools and you make knowledge visible, It's the best way to drive innovation, and my favorite way to do it, which is humans first. Get your internal employees doing smart human-to-human things, and then figure out the technology to layer on top of that. And that's how you truly build innovation from the bottom up. So, thank you.